All right, motherfucker. You showed up again. That's something. That's strength. You gave yourself a damn minute to breathe, to pause, to check in with your own crazy ass life. Today, we're diving into the shit that most people run from. Your fucking emotions. Yeah, those messy, beautiful, infuriating ass feelings. They're not your weakness. They're part of your power. Every feeling you've had, it's a part of your story. The highs, the heartbreak, the rage, the peace. Let that shit flow. All of it matters. Let's get into it. Sit your ass down and get comfortable. Let your shoulders drop like all that stress you've been carrying. Let your hands fall easy. Now close your damn eyes. Take a deep ass breath in through your nose. Hold that shit. Now exhale slowly like you mean it. Again, inhale for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Now exhale. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now picture this. Your emotions are a river, flowing, wild, peaceful, fucking real. See that water moving through you. Memories, moods, madness, joy, pain, anger, love. All of it just moving through, not stuck. You don't need to fight that river. You damn sure don't need to control it. Just watch it flow. Feelings come and feelings go. Some sit with you for a while. Others dip in and out like they forgot something. But none of them are permanent. And none of them define who the hell you are. Now think back. Remember a time you were fucked up emotionally, but you made it through. You didn't die. You didn't disappear. You felt it. You survived it. Maybe you cried your damn eyes out. Maybe you cursed the sky. Maybe you went silent, but you're still here, aren't you? That's resilience, motherfucker. That's strength. Take one last deep-ass breath and exhale, giving thanks for the fact that you can feel. For real, that shit's a gift. Now when you're ready, open your damn eyes. Let's try this affirmation together. My emotions are valid as fuck, and I've got the strength to deal with them with clarity and compassion. Yeah, let's say it again, like you mean it. My emotions are valid as fuck, and I've got the strength to deal with them with clarity and compassion. You can handle life's emotional punches. You got grace and grit, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Let your damn self feel, grow from it, own it, be about that human experience. Give yourself fucking permission to feel deeply and to respond like the emotionally intelligent badass you're becoming. Let's get ready for story time. One day, a big-ass storm rolled through a forest. Trees were standing all tall and shit, proud like they couldn't be touched. Then the winds came, the rain hit, and guess what? Those hard-ass trees snapped like matchsticks. But one little willow tree, that motherfucker bent. That motherfucker swayed, but he didn't resist. It flowed with the storm. And when the skies cleared, that willow was still there, standing, breathing, alive. The lesson? Being hard ain't the same as being strong. Real resilience, it's about flexibility, feeling what you feel, rolling with it, learning from it. Don't let your emotions define you. Let them shape your fucking strength. Let me share this proclamation with you. I want you to use this. Today, I honor the shit my emotions have taught me, and I commit to growing from it. Period. Say that shit with your chest now. Today, I honor the shit my emotions have taught me, and I commit to growing from it. Now here's your move. Share one moment, just one, where you overcame an emotional ass whooping. Tell somebody who's earned your trust. Don't fake it. Don't hide that shit. Connection is how we build resilience, motherfucker. So this is how you integrate this into your day. In the mornings, start your day like a river, smooth, aware, and moving forward. Don't block the fucking flow. By midday, pause. Remind yourself, my emotions are valid as fuck, and I've got the strength to handle them. And then when evening comes, ask yourself before you sleep, what did I feel today? How the hell did I respond? And what did I learn from all that emotional current? You're not broken because you feel. You're human. And being human, that's your fucking superpower. Thanks for showing up for yourself today. Now go live like it matters. Keep rising, motherfucker.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I love that, man. Did y'all enjoy that? That's the first time kind of starting like that. Sometimes I've thrown these in at the end, but this is my first time throwing one at the beginning. And I got to be honest with you, man, that was kind of nice to start and open like that. We might start doing that for all the Sunday sessions. Well, listen, thank you all for joining me in for this, let me get my words right. Thank you for joining me today for this impromptu conversation. Because it's July 4th, it's Independence Day. This is typically the time that the people in this country get together and celebrate the independence of this nation, the founding of this nation, and its liberation. And so it's a very interesting time to be alive. I've seen a lot of comments and things going on today. And I'm going to say this at the beginning just to get it off my chest because it's there. And we're going to talk a little bit. I will try to interact with the chat a little bit as well as we get going. But one thing that I found interesting, and rightfully so, is that there are a lot of people where this year they don't feel like celebrating Independence Day. And I get it. There are a lot of people right now, a lot of Americans who don't feel like this is a day worth celebrating today for a myriad of reasons. For most, it is the current state of our democracy that has them, in a place where they're like, man, how do I celebrate this country? The first thing I want to say to everybody who feels that way, and this is your first time feeling that way, welcome to the fucking real world. Welcome to the club, motherfucker, because this is what Black folk been saying for a very long damn time. It's just now starting to impact you, But this is a struggle that Black folk in this country have had for a very long time. 4th of July has been uncomfortable for me ever since I was a child. But then again, that's because I grew up reading stuff like Frederick Douglass's what is the 4th of July to a slave? You know? And so we're going to talk about a lot of that. I'm not going to keep it very racial today because it's a bigger issue. But I do want to, for all of my folks out there who are non-Black, all of my non-Black Americans, and for the first time you're feeling like you're a part of a country that does not value you. I empathize with that, and hopefully now that you feel it, now that there's a fear, now that there's a tingle in your spine, hopefully now you can show my community some empathy in the same way that you've showed so many others, But definitely, welcome to the club. Maybe we can finally get some shit done now that you finally woke up off of the American Kool-Aid. You don't stop drinking that shit. You finally get it that it was never equal for all, period. It's always in group, out group. That is beyond racial. That is beyond class. That is beyond. It's always been the people in power gets to choose who to share it with. And as long as it's shared with you, you don't really mind who it doesn't get shared with. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're at the club and you get in and the other people don't, you just so glad to be on the in crowd, which has always been kind of, this is me. I'm not asking anybody else to be me, but it's always been kind of one of my issues with patriotism altogether. I've struggled with patriotism. I don't take it from anybody else. Several of the men in my family were military. I come from a long line of veterans who did not get the benefits they were supposed to get. You know what I'm saying? But I come from a long line of veterans. But I've struggled with patriotism. For me, I still celebrate when other people celebrate. That's probably some of my Christian baggage, because when I was a Christian, I was very, very much progressive in my Christianity, where I did believe that you weep with those who weep and you rejoice with those who rejoice. And I was very much a Pauline Christian. So I definitely believed in becoming all things to all men, which due to my autism, that kind of made it a little easy because I had gotten really good at masking, But I've never really felt comfortable. I don't think I'd ever really defined myself as a patriot. And if I was going to be a patriot, it'd have to be a patriot for humanity. I don't see, and I guess that's the conundrum for me. Even the people who still, say stuff like America's the greatest place in the world. It's like you can only say that stuff if you're completely embracing this in-group, out-group. And it's very weird. Those lines are different. And I said I was going to keep it too racial, but as Black folk, we never really get to choose our group. Other people get to choose it for us. But it is an interesting thing. And so I do understand why so many people are melancholy today, why so many people are sober, are somber, and it should. But I hope what comes out of this, because that's what I went through, a similar process, right? It's not just deconstructing your faith. You also got to decolonize your mind. Oh, shit. I didn't mean to go that heavy, but we're here, right? It's not just deconstructing our faith. We also have to decolonize our mind. We have to decolonize the way that we work with others. So what I hope that we get out of this extreme disappointment is that you allow yourself to sit with it for a while. Back in 2015, I've never really shared the details of this story. I've talked a little bit about it. Most of you know I'm not necessarily transparent. I consider myself more translucent. You know what I'm saying? But back in 2015, early 2016, I've mentioned that my family and we lost everything. And it was all literally based because the Christian organization that I was working for discovered that I was also working for a Black nationalist organization, which it was volunteering my time at the time, but I was their chief operating officer. And also discovered that I didn't believe in Santa Claus anymore. And so this was all the evidence they needed to know that, nope, he's not a Christian. And so they definitely used a lot of scare rhetoric, communist rhetoric, red rhetoric, socialist rhetoric about me. The only thing they could find on me is that I called a white man a jackass. And after calling a white man a jackass, I was arrested and I was put in jail. And I sat there in that jail. It wasn't my first time going to jail. I've been to jail a few times in my life. And I know this is what people say. This is what people say. But almost every time I did not do anything wrong. I think the only time I actually went to jail for something I did was when I was like in middle school and I stole an earring, you know, from Dillard's. Don't play with Dillard's, man. Them folks will come for your ass. But so it wasn't my first time being in jail. But it was definitely my first time being in jail, knowing beyond a shadow of a doubt that this was racial, that this was political, and that this was cultural. I'd had those thoughts before, like when I was arrested in high school, after there was a riot at my high school, and the cops were slamming students on the ground. I'll let you determine which color students they were slamming on the grounds. And I went to those students while they were being handcuffed, and I asked them for their parents' names and numbers so that I can call their parents and let them know where they would be, you know? And I got tackled by 5 officers. My glasses were broken that day. My wrists were bruised that day. Nobody cared because I was a black kid and they were the cops. They were authority. Those people wouldn't just do something to you if you weren't doing nothing. Imagine the insanity of black folk in the South saying some bullshit like that. Oh, this is why I have trust issues. Like I don't trust family the way that other people do, because I got arrested that night and I had to sit in that jail until midnight because nobody in my family would come get me. And so I sat there till midnight, and then they finally let me go, catch and release. And I walked home. You know, that's been my life. That was high school. So when this happened in 2016, which of course by this time I'm fully deconverted, fully deconstructed, and I've done much work by this time to decolonize my mind. And so as much as I was heartbroken, because it was an entire ordeal, when the sheriff came to my door, you know, I said, oh, I got to see the warrant because this doesn't even sound realistic to me. You're telling me you're here to arrest me because I called somebody a jackass? You know, and by the way, I had to fight 2 years to get this shit off my record. My degree was worthless for 2 years because of this bullshit, you know? But I willingly got in his car. He and I had a nice conversation. I get to the jail, sitting in the little holding area, talking to everybody else. Fairly a friendly guy. I don't know if friendly is the word. I'm nice. I'm sociable. You know, so I'm talking to everybody, being nice. And then I get a call, and my wife is like, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "I'm fine." She said, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm sitting here talking to some of the people. We're laughing, just waiting for them to process me so I know what's going on." And then she says, "They said they're keeping you overnight on suicide watch. They said you were in there." Like they had made up a whole bunch of lies. And it was just a friend who called a friend and said, "Keep them in there." You know? I was upset, but it wasn't the first time. And I knew by this time there was nothing I could do at that moment that my temper or my rage could solve. You know? That's not the type of person I am anyway. But I sat in that jail that night, and I did not think about myself. Because it was simple. It was very simple to me. I knew for a fact that I had not done anything wrong. And yet I am a part of a system that could arrest me for calling a white man a jackass, take my freedom, make my degree mean absolutely nothing after working hard for it, paying for it, pulling my family out of the gutter. And it can be taken away, and there's nobody who will stand up for what's right. You think you just joined a Nazi institution? You think America just became Nazis? The fact that you had to vote on other people's fucking freedoms in this country should let you know that this has always been a Nazi regime. Sorry, I didn't mean to get into that. But I didn't think about me. I thought about, man, I wonder how many others are in here and actually really didn't do anything wrong. But we don't care because we're so complicit. So that's what happens when you actually sit in your pain not as a person who is isolated from other people, but as a person who understands that this is not a fucking island. And if it's happening to me, it is not just because I'm so exceptional. They didn't just so happen to get the wrong one this time. But we do it every day. It's an issue that I've called out ever since I've started making content in this space, because it's an issue I was calling out even when I was in the Christian space. You tell me you care about people's freedoms, but I don't see not one secular organization, not one, working on the freedom of everybody who is unjustly incarcerated over cannabis crimes. I don't see not one secular community doing that shit. So is it that you really care about freedom, or do you just care about your pet issues? Because if we were going to do that, I could just go back to being a black nationalist and only care about black people. That's what I could do. I'm just too much of a humanist for that. So I got issues with independence. I got issues with freedom, because it seems to be a word we just toss around to fit our own selfish agendas, while not really being concerned about other people. We've gotten so comfortable with our in-group, out-group mentality that it's hard to see. You know? Now, as I say, these are me sharing my thoughts. I don't expect everybody to see the world in the way that I see it, and that's not a need for me. It's not a requirement for me. That would blind me to the realities of other people's lived experiences. But in the same way, the only way I can help contribute to let other people get loud and proud about their lived experience, hell, even when you're wrong, is to do the same thing. I'm not going to bite my tongue. I'm not going to say what other people want me to say because it's what they want to say. If you want to say that shit, you say it. I'm going to speak from where I come from, and you're not going to drown that out. This is why, if y'all have noticed over the past 2 or 3 months, I've pulled back from a lot. I pulled back from a lot because I just started noticing like there's just an expectation for so many people to think the same way. And that's not what I'm trying to create. That's not what I want to be a part of. Because that's how people get left out. You know? It's hard thinking about Independence Day while the hashtag alligator Alcatraz is circulating. It's trending. Wow. Independence. You know? All right, so y'all. If y'all don't know who James Baldwin is, Hubert Henry Harrison, Carter G. Woodson, Chancellor Williams, Marcus Garvey, Martin Delany, Nat Turner, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, Toussaint Louverture, Kwame Nkrumah, Kwame Ture, Robert Mugabe. If you don't know these names, you're going to have a hard time understanding me. If your perspective of Black culture and Black history is through Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, John Lewis, even Dr. King, I'm going to let you know real quick, you don't know shit about me or my history. Because a lot of people that America celebrates as Black leaders, I do not. But I mean, like, if Nazi Germany was still controlling the lives of Jews, and they chose which ones were the good Jews, wouldn't we all be kind of like a little suspect? You know? I was horribly disappointed when Bill Clinton, who I was never a fan of anyway, but I was horribly disappointed at Joe Biden's inauguration little situation that he Bill threw Kwame Ture, who many of you may know as Stokely Carmichael, under the bus, but basically said the quiet part out loud is that, oh, John almost went the way of Stokely, but we glad we got him back this way. That's the shit. That's the shit. Mm-hmm. You know. And so there's just so much more to the story. So let's talk about the holidays, right? This is a holiday. Now here's the thing. I don't really do holidays, and that creates tension for me with people. And that's not a new thing. I did not like holidays when I was a kid. I do not like them now. And the thing is, if you saw me at a holiday event, you'd never know that. You'd never know, like, damn, he really don't like this. Like, I don't like watching sports. But if you see me at a game, I'm like, oh yeah, because I don't like watching sports, but I do like hanging out with people that I care about, if I have the time. So, but I'm very much it's the thought that counts type of person. So I really do think about stuff. And so holidays for me have always been kind of tricky, and especially again with July 4th as a Black person. White Americans, I completely understand why you're celebrating your freedom from the English, whatever. We got no such freedom on a July 4th or 1776, Now, there was a time in 1804, I want to say, am I getting that right? 1804, where we got one hell of a freedom. And that's a beautiful one. If you want to celebrate one, I think that's January 1st, 1804. That's one beautiful one, because that's one that actually ended up in victory, though short-lived, still independent, but got some work to do. But that's a beautiful one to tell. But I noticed that, somebody said it in the chat. Ryan said it in the chat. It's not freedom if we're not all free. That's it. Ain't none of us free until all of us are free. That's how that works. That's what freedom is. That's what freedom is. I tell people, like, freedom isn't a place you escape to. It's a hill you commit to dying on. And that's what I began to notice. Like, okay, I said I wasn't gonna go racial, but I gotta highlight this. I started noticing this as early as 2011, and this is when I was still on, not 2011, 2001, and this is when I was still on fire for the Lord. This is actually around the time my wife and I met. And I was leading a campus ministry in 9th grade called Fire, Fervent and Passion, Righteous and Effective, and we'd have this prayer group, and I'd be getting people filled with the Holy Spirit and be prophesying and telling them what their spiritual gifts is and shit like that. And then September 11th happened. And then I noticed that our nation, this country's nation, had a president who was Christian at that time. And they were using all of this Christian language to support war. And that immediately created a type of dissonance within me, because I understood how it was justified biblically. I just thought we couldn't do that. I thought we didn't do that anymore. I understood how you could justify war biblically. The Old Testament God is a war God. That's not lost on me. Jesus is coming back to be a war God. That's not lost on me. Like, he's literally coming back on a conquering horse with a sword coming out of his mouth, which I don't know what type of fetish that shit is, but hey, who am I to judge? I won't be kink shaming anybody, but he's a war God, right? So I get that part. I get that part, but that's not what we had been teaching. We had kind of taught like, nah, we moving away from that. Is love, sunshine, rainbows, and God ain't that worry no more. And we're going to love everybody, and we're going to forgive. So much so, and this is where the dissonance came in, because anytime something happened to the Black community, we'd use that same Jesus, those same scriptures, that same God, to say we're going to do what God wants us to do, and that's to forgive. We go in courts and we forgive people who shot up our children. You know what I'm saying? We've forgiven America so many times. We fight for America, then we got to forgive them. You fight and you got to forgive. And then you fight and then you got to forgive. That's some stupid shit. Break this fucking cycle. Man. So when it comes to July 4th, and it creates some issues for me, because I realized, like, man, there is a huge dichotomy. And I'm saying Black people, but it may not just be Black people. It could be poor people. It could be marginalized people, marginalized people, period. Right. But I did realize that, like, for us, Jesus was always conditioning us to forgive. But then I noticed that my white counterparts had a very different relationship with their Jesus. Their Jesus seemed to have not changed since the same Jesus of the late Middle Ages. The Jesus who gives you permission to take other people's shit, which Jesus does a lot of in the New Testament, by the way. You know, it's there. But it's almost like what you begin to realize almost immediately is that the white Christian is the Christian made in God's image. And the black Christian is the Christian that has been grafted into the family. It becomes very clear why God treats you like the ugly stepchild, you know. But just for everybody who's ever felt like that before, I like to remind you of the moral of the story of the ugly duckling. Baby, it ain't that you ugly, you something different altogether. You know what I'm saying? I ain't saying that I'm better than nobody. I'm just saying that I'm different. And the difference is better. Thank you, Hart Ramsey. I have to give a preacher credit where the preacher gets it. All right, so I noticed that same thing, because notice with Juneteenth and 4th of July. Number one, I've always thought black people celebrating 4th of July was weird. But again, I'll never take that from anybody, because why? We have fought for this fucking country. If you go back and catch the Juneteenth episode that I did, I talked about it. Lincoln himself admitted it. If it wasn't for the free men, the Civil War would not have been won. And then the Union betrayed us and left us down here with no fucking protection with the people we just took it from. Real smart strategy. Actually, it was damn near genius strategy. It was a way to make sure you could get our help and still take our fucking resources. That's one of the things that people don't understand about the civil rights movement. We weren't shit. I hate the way history gets retold. And it's not even that the way it gets retold. It's the way that we accept passive stories instead of doing the active work of verifying information. You know what I'm saying? You have the time now. So do the work. Do the work. We're not being chased by hyenas anymore. You know, we're not being chased by lions. Do the work. We have evolved. You know, there was a time when our species did not have time to verify everything. You have a lot more time to verify shit before you believe it. So stop just believing shit. That was one of the things that I did. Once I deconverted, or deconstructed rather, I realized, oh, there's probably a lot of other bullshit that I believe too. I should probably start getting to work on that. Probably shouldn't wait until I find that out later. I should probably go ahead and start doing a hardline investigation of myself and say, Darante, how much bullshit have you believed? You know? So I'm not looking for a world where everybody tells me the truth. I'm looking for a world where I'm a fucking human lie detector, because I'm capable of it. And so are you. You know? The easiest way to do it is just don't give yourself permission to know anything you don't fucking know. That's where you start. You know, like I did an experiment with my kids the other day, and I asked them, I said, my oldest son is Destin, is his name. And I said, if Destin comes home and tell me that he went to the store, do I know that he went to the store? My daughter, she said, yeah. I said, no, I don't. And then Destin called it immediately. Yep. The only thing you know is that I told you that I went to the store. You don't actually know that. Now, I've been doing little thought experiments like that with my kids since they were younger, just to help them to learn how to process information and to be okay with being okay, you know? So when you look at, you see the same dichotomy when you look at Juneteenth and you look at July 4th. We use the word freedom for both of these. But what we got after Juneteenth and what they got after July 4th are not the same thing. But we use that word. And that's something, especially as a Black nationalist during those days, that I was very uncomfortable with. That we use the word freedom in the context of Black people in a way that doesn't mean freedom in the context of any other group of people on this planet. Nope, that is not freedom. It's not freedom. But we did the same thing to the West Indies as well. A lot of them got their freedom a few hundred years ago, but it wasn't really still freedom. You're still under the rule of the crown. And we'll kind of talk about what freedom is before we close out. You know? Yeah, it's a growing process. It's graduating. And that's really what it is. I don't even want to say it's graduating. It's growing. I think so many people, at least one of the side effects I saw is that so many people who adopted the Christian worldview started stunting their growth process, started stunting their learning process. Many of them started looking at school at school is the place I learn. So I do the K through 12 thing. And if I decide not to go to undergrad or graduate, then I'm through learning. After that, I'm only learning movie shit, trivia, you know, or the ones who go on to go to undergraduate or graduate school, then they go through that and then, all right, I'm done. And it's like, no, what I think one of the biggest things that the deconstruction process has really given me is that, it's my responsibility to learn every day. There's not one point that I'm gonna get to. There's not like a finish line that I can get to where I say, I know everything that I need to know. You can only even conceptualize something like that in a world that has a fixed design, which is why it's so easy to gravitate towards that when you're a believer. When you're a believer, you believe everything that will happen has already happened. Everything that will be done is already known by the Lord. And so you just drop in the bucket, you know what I'm saying? And so you just here to enjoy the garden, But then once you realize, nope, nothing is fixed, then you realize you're literally living in eternity with the possibilities. Now, you won't be here, but this will. It'll be here a lot longer than you. Maybe not forever, but it's forever to your ass. So it's so weird that people are trying to get out of eternity. You're in eternity right now. What are you doing with this shit? You know what I'm saying? What are you doing with this shit? And so far, just to be clear, like I don't want to go way off the fringes, but just to be clear, we have effectively, little by little, prolonged our lifespan exponentially over the past several thousand years. Took us a while, but we've done it. I don't know where the end of that goes. Maybe within 200 years, the average lifespan of a human could be like 300 or so. Man, I hope they froze me so I can come back then. I'd be okay with that. I want to come back. I want to do better with my eternity too. Like I'm here. Like I want to enjoy this stuff, And it's not even just enjoy. I want to be very careful with that. I want to make a difference. I want to contribute. It's like, dang. Like when I was a believer, my greatest desire would have been to hear the Lord say, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." Oh, that was my highest desire, man, just to know that when I rolled up into heaven at the pearly gates, that Peter was going to be there. He was like, "Hey, y'all, it's Pastor Ron. He done made it." I was like, "Oh, shit. Let me play humble. And I walk up, and the Lord comes out. I imagine he'd be like something like a goodness gracious, great ball of fire type of situation. And then he says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." Now, if humanity had one voice, that's what I'd love to hear from humanity one day. Like, God damn. Just imagine hearing that from humanity, where humanity says, "Damn, man, you made us proud." And I think that's something we could all want. I think that's something we could all desire. That's why my transition to this work was somewhat easy, because like my deconstruction journey from Christianity, that's what I was doing. I was slowly replacing, or I'll say, I was slowly seeing that God had always been the spirit of the people, and whether that's the spirit of a local ethnic tribe who gives themselves a warrior god, or the spirit of a nation who gives themselves, like, our nation, we got a few pantheons of gods. We got Lady Liberty, we got Uncle Sam, you know what I'm saying? And if anthropologists of the future do work the way that we do it, then people in the future gonna swear that we worship Lady Liberty. I mean, why else would you have a big statue just in the middle of the island? It's obviously there to worship. That's how we often interpret history, by the way, which is very problematic. Oh, y'all are hilarious. All right, so let me get into this a little bit more, and then we'll. How long have I been here? Oh, damn, I feel like I've been here longer than that. All right, so there's a difference between independence, freedom, and equality. And I don't feel like Black people, or at least especially when I was a Black nationalist, I felt like Black people were prevented from understanding freedom in a way that white Americans did. because if black people would have been allowed to understand freedom the way that white Americans did, then black folk would have went to war with the United States of America. The same way the colonists went to war against British, which I think that's why we create all of these tokenized standards to keep that thing hush hush, you know. But when you invite an intellectual, when you invite academia into this conversation, there is no way I'm free if I'm not independent. You know, black people didn't get freedom, nor did we get independence. What we got was an illusion of equality, which why the fuck would I want to be equal with you after what you've done? You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine you're kidnapped. You're abducted. All right. Let's just say you minding your business at Walmart, looking at the grapes, thinking about getting one out of the bag just to taste it. It ain't stealing. It's just tasting. So you looking at the grapes, and then somebody just snatch your ass up, put you in a van, beat the hell out you, make you do all type of crazy, kinky, stupid shit for years. And they say, what do you want? And he says, you say, I want my freedom. And they say, I'll tell you what, I'll do you one better. I'll make you one of me. What the fuck? That's typically how it works. That's typically how that shit works. I victimized you to the point where you think being equal with me is a fucking compliment. Bitch, be humble. Sit down. You know? That's, you know, just, you got to think about that shit. That's what bothered me. I was a part of the NAACP in middle school, youngest member in DC. And I was so disappointed with the conversations. It was more so about preserving a narrative than solving any problems. I went to a justice rally back in 2000, I think it was at the end of 2016. And they had invited me because I was in the middle of this case. They had invited me, and I sat in there and I listened to them. And what they did was they opened it up praising all of these victories we had. All of these victories. And I mean, they're going through them. And everybody, amen, and hey, yes, hallelujah. And then the next person gets up and they say, but this is what we got to do. We don't have jobs. We don't have the education. We don't have this, and we don't have that. And I'm like, so what the fuck was the victories you was just talking about then? Help me understand this shit. How did you just say we won these victories, but yet we ain't got the spoils? Help me understand that shit. You know? And it was like, everything that glitters ain't gold. Everybody that sound like they talking the talk ain't damn talking the talk. They're not doing the work. They're not even trying to do the work. It's a fucking distraction. Hi, Umar Johnson. It's a fucking distraction. Ooh, there it is. What to the slave is the 4th of July? But like, for me, if you, and this, I felt this way since I was a child, and I'll kind of explain it a little bit. If you're a part of a marginalized group, if you're a part of an oppressed group, if you're a part of a group like mine, then I've traditionally seen holidays as a waste. I'm like, man, this is a waste. Now, mind you, I have a lot of childhood trauma around being at family events on holidays where it was obvious that I was not wanted there. You know, I don't know why. You know, it's very weird. Family members can be very, very weird, but it's been that way since I was a child. They had issues with my mother, but they also had issues with her father. So it was just a long line of issues. And many of those issues were legitimate, but sometimes families take shit out on children who have nothing to do with any of that shit, which Sinners kind of did a good job of highlighting that as well. But what I couldn't understand is if these people don't like us, why do you keep forcing us to come? You know? But that's also how I looked at the civil rights movement. If these people don't like you, why do you keep allowing yourself to get hit in the head to eat their nasty ass fries? That is not a flex. You know what I'm saying? That is not a flex. Forcing yourself on people who do not like you is not a flex. We had better food. And the other side of that narrative that you're not seeing is that while those people were doing that, you know who really bore the cost of that? Black business owners. See, the other part of the history, when you read this shit, when you look at it, you just look at, oh no, the white places to eat were the only places to eat in town. Now there's some nuance here. It's like, no, it wasn't. There was a group of people who got hoodwinked and became the voice of all black folk. And that shit should have been intolerable. Especially at a time when we know for a fact there were other black politicians, other black leaders who are also offering their voices. How do we have any conscience, any integrity to wipe out everything Malcolm said, everything Kwame Ture said, Stokely Carmichael said, everything W.B. Du Bois said after he left the NAACP, and only platform Dr. King prior to the year before he was assassinated? Anything he says after that is out the window. We don't like that shit. You know? See, I'll ask some questions that'll make people uncomfortable. If Jesse was really just as powerful as Dr. King, and they on the same balcony together, by just one shot. Man. So, as a child, even looking at holidays, growing up poor, growing up black, growing up with family members who constantly, like the older family members who constantly said stuff like, this is a white man's world. And I'm like, and so for the times that we get to ourselves, this is what we do. This is how I felt as a kid. You know, this is one of the reasons why I went so gung-ho into ministry. I'm hyper-productive too. So, you know, again, I'm not encouraging anybody to be me. I'm just sharing me. And if it resonates with you, it does. And if it doesn't, then you're just getting a little peek into my world. You know? Man. He was more than willing to go along to get along. You know? The Rainbow Coalition was a joke, especially when we realized that he took that from Fred Hampton. And so Fred Hampton's history gets, you know, up until a few recent years, gets completely wiped out. And Jesse gets to come up and yeah, I'm not a fan of Jesse Jackson. Not a fan of Jesse Jackson. Not a fan of Al Sharpton. Pretty much, honestly, and I'm not this hardcore anymore, but it is a numbers game for me, right? When I think of someone who says, I want to help black people, I really want to help black people, then politics is not where you do that at. Not in a democracy. Not unless you're doing local politics in a local city, local town, local district. If it is federal politics, black people, you'd have to be in a state where black people exist as a majority to ethically help black people without screwing your constituents. It's bad math. That's why when people try to say, oh, now I love Barack Obama just like everybody. I don't love him just like everybody else do. I don't love anybody like that. But I get why people love Barack Obama. But I was like, people say, are you excited that you got a black president? No. Because nobody whose goal is to help specifically black people is going to be able to do it out of the White House. Not ethically. No. You run to be the president in a democracy of the majority. You know? So no. This is why the people who really were trying to help black people weren't running for office. Dr. King didn't run for office. Malcolm didn't run for office. Huey P. Newton didn't run for office. Bobby Seale did not run for office. Angela Davis did not run for office. Marcus Garvey did not run for office. Booker T. Washington did not run for office. They built engines. You know, they built shit. They built shit. If you've not looked at the UNIA, go research it. Marcus Garvey built the biggest Black economic engine, and nobody's seen anything like it to this day, as far as for Black folk. You know? So I just felt like we weren't doing with our time what we could have been doing. You know? So I felt like we were missing an opportunity to be productive. But as I got active in church, the adults in my life convinced me that, you know what? You're taking life too seriously. And so I let it fade for a while. I let it kind of fade to the background until I went to college, which I waited 4 years to go to college. I graduated high school in 2004. And then, I didn't go back to college in 2010. So I waited 6 years. But I didn't want to go to college. I wanted to go to seminary, but I didn't want to go to regular college. And I didn't want to go to college for the same reasons that I didn't really like holidays. I didn't like the way that my family presented it, you know? For my family, and I can't talk about everybody, but for my family, college was about the classic. College was about the bands. College. And I was just like, oh, well, like that's the same reason I was never into the clubs, right? Because it was like, clubs is about the music. Clubs is about the girls. Clubs is about the food. Well, why would I pay somebody else to do that shit when I can do that at my house? See, again, I spent a part of my life growing up in DC and Upper Marlboro. And so even as kids, we do house parties, you know? And I'm like, why am I gonna pay somebody else to go somewhere to be around people I don't even know and risk accidentally brushing up against somebody and then gotta kick somebody's ass that night? You know, why am I gonna do all that to myself when I can pick somebody I know and say, hey, let's all go in on this food. You know what I'm saying? And let's call some friends over, make everybody pay a little charge at the door. And now we done made a little bit of money and everybody had a good time and nobody gets hurt. That was me. I prefer to do things that actually benefit me. I'm not looking just to blow off steam, you know? Like people look at me sometimes like, when are you gonna take a vacation? And I'm like, you know what? I don't know, because even when I take a vacation, I want to be working on my vacation. Not that I just want to, I'm not just saying that I'm a workaholic, but just like, I don't attach to those things the way that other people do. You know, it's actually kind of boring. I've been to the beach, you know, it's boring as fuck. But like if I'm at the beach and I know that I got communities growing all over and I know that there's a local community by, then, oh man, I like to have some purpose to my stuff. So like, as I was going through college, my sociology, leadership, economics, and management classes made it clear for me, it gave me permission to kind of see that, damn, taking life seriously is exactly the appropriate fucking response. And so that's when I started getting back to me. Went back to college in 2010. I was an atheist by 2014, which is the same year that I graduated with my first degree. And so for me, holidays in communities, sometimes I want to say poor communities, sometimes I want to say Black communities. You know what I'm saying? But what I want to say, if you're a part of any community that is oppressed, that is marginalized, that considers yourself a minority, then I'd ask you to look at how you're organizing to see what you can do. You know, I've known since I was a kid, begging America to treat Black people better was like, why are we still doing that? Doing like, number one, it's politically ignorant. It's politically ignorant. That's not how people get their rights. The same people who give you your rights can take them away. Someone doesn't give you your rights. You defend your fucking rights. And until you're willing to do that, you're a Nazi. Because if you're not going to defend your rights, you're damn sure not going to defend mine. Which means if you see me getting arrested, you're not going to help me. You're not going to stop them. The most you're going to do is take out your fucking camera and film, because that's what the new Nazis do. The Nazis aren't just the people who do the shit. It's the people who sit there and watch it happening. Yeah. The society we live in is everybody feels big and bad while not doing a damn thing and know that they're not willing to do a damn thing. We are not the same. This is why I don't care who doesn't like me. I know what I've put on the line. I know the work that I do. I know some of them can't see through their own privilege to know when they're just bullshitting everybody else. But I can. My people have lost a lot of good men and women in the service of revolution. And I've studied their lives. I've learned their lessons. I've mourned with their children. I've wept over their losses. I've wept over my losses of never getting to sit in a room with John Henrik Clark, that I will never, ever get to sit in a room with Malcolm X. You know? So you got to learn how to take life seriously. What I realized is that we wasted so much food, time, and opportunity. Instead of building community, we were just using holidays to worship the altar of consumerism. And I know everybody's family doesn't do this, but I just got to talk about my family, right? Every holiday, they went shopping. Every fucking holiday. So probably my family, all of they black asses, is somewhere red, white, and blue to the T. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we got to get the expensive food for this holiday. Y'all want crab legs and steak? Now look, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying it's unwise if you are a part of an oppression. That means an oppressed people. That means you are living like you are not oppressed. That means you are not trying to actively be a part of your own solution. And you are the reason that we lost Malcolm. You are the reason that we lost Martin. You are the reason that we lost Garvey, because you want freedom, but you don't want to do a damn thing to get it. You can't even put a knife to your own throat. No. Everybody want to act like they activist. All right? Then change your fucking life. That's when I know you real deal. Make your activism mean some shit in your life. Whew. Man. Got new red, white, and blue outfits every year. I'm telling you, it's not a lie. It's not a lie. You know, we got to get the best liquor, best food, and hang out with people that we don't even like. Hang out with people that we're going to talk about as soon as they leave. Hang out with people. Did you see how many plates they took out of here? And she brought that nasty ass macaroni and cheese, knowing nobody didn't like it. She probably did that shit on purpose. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Why are we doing this? Why did we waste all of this money just to talk about people? We got people in jail. We got people failing school. We're not taking life seriously. Just trying to have a good time. And if you'd actually studied history, I could tell you where that shit came from. I could tell you where you learned it from. I could tell you who taught you how to do it. I could tell you who taught you how to waste your own damn time. And just to be clear, if you are waiting for somebody else to solve your problems, you are wasting your damn time. Because that means you're going to use your resources on your appetite and not on your freedom. Free your mind, and the rest will follow. Be colorblind. Don't be so shallow. Okay, had to loosen it up a little bit. Because y'all know my shit go up and down. I have to remember, like, this isn't a rally. This isn't a rally. Simmer down, Darante. But you know, you end up putting pressure on people to dress up to make you feel better about yourself. knowing that all of y'all are economically poor at that moment because you don't have an economic floor. If you don't have an economic floor, I don't care how much money you make, you're poor. You're poor. You don't make money. Your money is going away. You put your money in pockets with holes in it. Your money grows wings and flies away because you don't have an economic floor. It does no good to complain that school didn't teach me what you're not willing to learn. You know how many people know, school didn't teach me this. When did you realize that? 15 years ago. So what have you done since then? Well, nothing. I don't even know if I can honestly say that school didn't teach you. I think you might have been one of them motherfuckers at the back of the class who weren't paying attention anyway, because we just gonna pretend like that shit don't happen. Fuck out of here. There has to be some responsibility. You know? I did a lot of stupid shit in my life that I did it with great intentions. I did it with really good heart, and it was still stupid. And that's that shit that I had to go back and kind of look over. Putting pressure on poor people to bring more than they have, just so you can feel like you're keeping up with the Joneses. That's what holidays start to feel like. You know, there are at this moment 11 federal holidays in the US. That's 11 opportunities a year to come together, organize, pull our collective economics to do more than just feed our faces and gossip. Every holiday, to me, should be a family community business meeting. Until you have a system that supports your existence, what the fuck are you doing with a party? What the fuck are you celebrating? Black folk, white folk have a freedom to celebrate. You don't. You know what I'm saying? Use this time to build your freedom. And that shit is not a mystery. Every nation on this continent, on this planet, has had to figure that shit out. For me, anything outside of that is being committed to losing on purpose. It is. You know? So, as I'm getting ready to close this conversation down, because I don't want to keep you too long. If you're going to celebrate, I do want you to enjoy it. Like, seriously, I hope nobody's getting the vibe that he's saying don't celebrate. I'm telling you, me. This is just me. You know, it's just me. And now, if you're a person who claimed to be a revolutionary, then I'd say you probably got better things that you could be doing with your time. But no, I don't want to sound anti-celebration. I just want to bring some nuance to the conversation. We can plan and we can celebrate. We can celebrate where we're going. We can celebrate where we're headed. But if you're celebrating a victory that you're not willing to help make happen, then you're celebrating an illusion, you know? So I went into my notes, and I had a fun time looking at how, because I still have much of my preaching notes from when I was a pastor, because I think starting in 2009, I think that's when I started, 2009, 2010, I started transcribing all my notes. But every 4th of July, I've always kind of preached different things around the idea of freedom. And last few years, I did, I don't know if it was a series or just a single message, but it was called I Got Issues with My Independence. And so I went over the notes, and man, the preaching stuff is so good in it, but I'm not going to share any of that. I'm just going to share some of the thoughts just to show you where my mind was, even when I was still somewhat in the faith. And so I'm just going to go over some of the points. One of them was resolved resistance is the only righteous predecessor to realized revelation. Obviously, I'm really big on consonants and alliteration. I'm a poet. I'm a rapper. I'm a creative. I'm a writer. I do what the fuck I want with my words because it's pretty. All right. But resolved resistance is the only righteous predecessor to revolution. And just the word revolution scares people sometimes. It's progressive change. It's not staying stuck, you know? It's not staying stuck. It's moving forward. It's realizing that what you're in does not work. and it needs to evolve, but it needs to evolve by force. And that's where the revolution comes from. That force doesn't always have to be violent. As a matter of fact, you study history, especially over the past 100 years, quite a few non-violent revolutions have been successful. I'm not saying they were all good revolutions, but they have. But those things don't happen on accident. That's why your resistance has to be resolved. You know, you have to know what you're willing to do. So many people know what they want or claim they know what they want. Many times they're just mimicking what other people said they should want. But most people don't know what they're willing to do. And if you don't know what you're willing to do, then that's just not as helpful. Are you willing to be a part of a feeding program? You know what I'm saying? Are you willing to be a part of a call bank where people can call when they're arrested so they can give their information? Are you willing to be a part of a development team where you build apps that give people quicker access to information when they're dealing with law enforcement? See, there are so many solutions that exist, but when we are together, we're too busy gossiping than building. It's a very weird thing to know that you don't have freedom. But every time you're with other people who are impacted by the same damn problem, it ain't on nobody's mind to see how we can work together to change our condition. Who taught you how to waste your time? That was an intentional thing right there, because it sounded like, who taught you to hate yourself? You know, you've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, run amok. YouTube didn't land on me. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry. It's like, what are you willing to do? And the truth of the matter is, we live lives that are so exhausting that when we see other people, all we want to do is chill. And I'm like, who taught you that? Did you not read Aesop's fables? And maybe even if you didn't read Aesop's fables, they did it in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. They did an episode where Carlton and Will was talking about, like, Will just doing his little frittering. He's doing his little frittering around. And Carlton stayed on his shit. The biggest shit. All right. The biggest problem with the mentality of trying to keep up with the Joneses, y'all ready? Is you don't got what they got. Okay? So if you're part of an oppressed community, every time you go out and celebrate the same way the people who are oppressing you are doing, you're building their shit. You don't make no 4th of July clothes, so why the fuck you buying them? Stop it. Stop it. I'm an extreme pragmatic, right? So things have to have some type of utility for me. You know, the most powerful thing that Dr. King could have ever done, the most powerful thing Dr. King could have ever done is in his very last speech, he could have stood up and said, I won't buy another American-made product. And he could have put the weight on the African-American community. If you want me to wear some drawers, y'all are going to have to make them. You want me to wear some socks, y'all are going to have to make them. That's the only way we build it. That's the only way you build an economy. And the thing is, I grew up on a little street called Doname Drive on the bottom of Dothan, Alabama, about 30 minutes away from the Panama City, from the Florida state line. When I was younger, I came in right around transition time. I was born in 1986. The lady there, I call her Granny. She was my great aunt, but she helped raise my mom. She had 3 kids who were at that time were pretty much all adults. And then my mom was living there as well. It was 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bath type of situation, ranch house. And most of the houses in this little neighborhood, like a street neighborhood, was like that. All of the houses when I was younger were owned by all of those black folk. Many of them bought those houses probably maybe a decade or so before I came along. Everybody in that neighborhood knew each other. Like I remember I kissed a girl at a bus stop, and by the time I got back down to my granny house, what you doing down there kissing girls? I'm like, how the fuck you know? Internet didn't exist yet. I don't even think cell phones existed yet. But that's how it worked in those little neighborhoods. You know, Miss Ruby J will call Miss Skipper, and Miss Skipper walk across the street. Hey, you know Ronte up there kissing them little girls. I heard they be out there hunching in the pig pens. It was country. It was country. I know, it was country. Pig pen is where our booty club was. But as I got older, I noticed there was something else going on in that community that I didn't know how to appreciate. And apparently, my older cousins didn't either. Because what was beautiful, and some people have these memories of at a time being able to just hang out almost all types of nights and walk up and down your streets and go to any of your neighbors' houses. It's because these communities, they were communities. These people didn't just they didn't just live on the same street. They were invested in each other's safety. They were invested in each other's growth. They were invested in each other's development. And I'm not just saying that, because here's the thing that I missed. When I was a kid, there was about 4 houses in that neighborhood that I could walk to and buy stuff. There was one lady, she ran her own little bakery out of her house. Her name was Miss Maisel. And you can go over there and you can get some cakes, some pies, some cookies. And for the most part, I think the heifer was just buying them from the bread stove. I don't know if y'all have bread stoves, but we had bread stoves. But easily accessible to people in the community. You go up the street, you got Miss Ma. Miss Ma had candy, pickles, other shit, you know? And then she also taught Bible studies on Saturdays for the young little kids. And then, what's her name? I can't believe Miss Josephine. Yeah, Miss Josephine, she ran a whole gambling operation out of her backyard. She had, somebody in her family build it up, put a few pool tables in there. People come up there. You had other people who made their own alcohol. You had other people who did carpentry work. This community was building an insulation for itself, where very little that it needed, it had to go out. All right. So, oh man. Yes, the candy store in her house. And the speakeasies. That's right. Yes. It was, no matter what was going on, you could feel safe, And so I asked myself as I was getting older, where did that go? What happened? Because that neighborhood now is all but dilapidated. It wasn't gentrified, even though it's probably going to be gentrified within the next 20 years. It wasn't gentrified. It was abandoned. The neighborhood was abandoned. The old people who started that project, for whatever reason, couldn't pass it down to the next generation. And I know why. I know why for Doname Drive. I know why for Doname Drive. Because it had started happening a little shortly before I got there. Because now, my older cousins' generations for Dothan, they're the first ones that fully grow up in fully integrated education. I don't think most Americans have thought about the consequences of taking Black kids and putting them into white institutions at a time where these white people still believe that these people are not capable of intelligence. Education doesn't happen that way. You're not going to inspire people to greatness when you don't even believe they deserve to be great, or especially if you believe that their greatness would be a threat. A lot of the ways that many Black people in this country feels about themselves came from their teachers, their coaches, and their principals. You know? Old homespun wisdom passed off as truth. You have to think about that. See, the generation that built that neighborhood, that bought those houses, they were educated in their own little home schools, little village schools, where they learned the importance of ownership. They learned the importance of community pride. They learned the importance of looking out for each other and starting where you are. Those ones that joined the integrated schools, they learned about all that green grass over there. Why would I stay here in this little honky-dunk town when they're building these nice neighborhoods over here? And so then every generation tries to repeat the success of the generation that came before it without ever sustaining the success of the generation that came before it. Because you keep allowing this country to fool you into thinking that it cares about you. The truth of the matter is that's just not how government works anyway. You keep fooling yourself that they're going to share their food. They're not. They're just going to take yours. They're going to take yours every time. You know? Because rights are not something that someone gives you. It's something that you defend. You know? Donner May Drive could have been the next Black Wall Street. Should have been. But literally, I think out of all of the families that lived in that neighborhood, only one of those families managed to keep their stuff generationally for about 2 generations. This neighborhood is about to be, it'll be fully gentrified within the next 20, 30 years. And it'll be another lost opportunity. So the question that I ask you is like, what are you doing with your time? It's something we've been talking about in our Sunday sessions. What are you going to do with all this space and opportunity? You know? So whatever you're doing today or any day, if you identify as oppressed, as marginalized, then, you know, hey, get you some ribs. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I ain't trying to stop nobody from eating. You know, get you some food, but start thinking about how you're moving. How are you using your time? You know, I'm an advocate for building local community, and I'm an advocate for building local community through Bridge City. Just got to say the quiet part out loud because it's unaggressive. I'll let y'all think that shit through. But this shit needs to be happening. Regular meetings needs to be happening. Pooling our resources needs to be happening. You know, you got to treat yourself like you're in a problem. That's the only way you're going to get the solution. Does that make sense? Man. Free your mind and the rest will follow. Damn. All right, let me hit this other stuff real quick. When you're thinking about resisting, when you're looking at freedom, what are you resisting? Anything that threatens anything that threatens or infringes upon our right to be free. You know? So when you think about it, you know, and maybe I want to preach for a minute here, but when you think about it, you have to learn, like, how different could life be if we learned how to resist debt? Damn, that's good. How different would life be if we learned how to resist unhealthy relationships? If we learn how to resist fake friends? If we learn how to resist crippling circumstances? Resist working for somebody else. Damn it. Resist helping the hurters. It's resisting anything, everything that threatens or infringes upon your right to be free. But that also means you got to do the work of figuring out what that is. And that's what nobody wants to do. Nobody wants to do the work. But freedom, it's a 4-letter word, bruh. And it's work. There is no way around it. Resistance begins where tolerance ends. You know, resistance begins where tolerance ends. Right now, America has been really good at tolerating injustice. This is why I don't join a lot of movements. Yeah, oh, join your movement just so you can tolerate it. No, man, where's the Trojan horse? You know, and I always think about that. Like, you know, people ever say, if you want to change the system, you got to get inside the system. Yeah, but you don't announce that shit when you're doing it. When you bring the Trojan horse to the door, you don't say, hey, yeah, we're here to change the system. That's how you know some nigga bullshitting. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. That's how I talk. It is me. But that's how you know somebody. You know they bullshitting. Or I'm going to change the system from the inside while telling them that I'm going to change it. You announcing the strategy? Really? I'm going to guess that engine is not going to make it all the way to the station. These people ain't thinking. Not thinking one bit. Freedom cannot be separated from independence. If I am not independent, I am not free. And I mean, you know that. If you're in a relationship and you're not independent, like you can't just do what you want to do. If you'd feel like you're not free. Like, what kind of controlling motherfucker did I get with? Independence must be intently declared and rigorously protected. Again, religion is freedom is independence is not something that is given to you. Rights are not something that are given to you. It's something that you defend. So I want to give you 3 essentials of independence. And these are from my old notes. So this isn't something I sat down and rewrote. These are just from old notes. This is stuff that I was telling people a long time ago. The 3 essentials of independence. If we're talking about independence, we have to be talking about self-sufficiency. And that's the Achilles heel right there. There's so much this generation misunderstands about boycotts that it breaks my heart. And that's how I know most people like are just a fucking inch deep. You're not even trying to understand. I'm not a fan of boycotts because we're doing them the way that we do holidays. You know, everything we do is passive, reactionary. Yeah, they don't want to do right. Well, we're going to stop buying until they do right. Yeah, and until they do wrong again. And then you're going to do the shit all over again and you're on a fucking loop. Okay? My wife just recently read one of Rosa Parks' books. And if you've never heard Rosa's story in her own words, please don't speak on her story because you're likely lying. You know? And that's one of the things I can tell people. Don't give yourself permission to know some shit that you don't know. But when you read Rosa's story, she makes it clear what the Montgomery boycott was for. That boycott wasn't, we're going to do this until they stop. Yep, this boycott wasn't, we're going to do this until they decide to treat us better. This boycott is we're going to do this to make them irrelevant. And then somebody betrayed the boycott. But I won't tell you who. I'll let you figure that shit out on your own. Because the boycott was successful. Successful in the sense that they created the first fucking Uber. This happened. This really, really happened. Where they organized a carpooling system, car sharing system, without cell phones, without apps. Because this is where innovation is born. When you get tired of riding the coattails of other people's handouts and you say, I'll handle this shit myself. What do we have? What's in the house? Who's here? You know what I'm saying? You have to stop despising some of those lessons that poverty has taught you. You know? The Montgomery boycott was a huge success until it wasn't. because somebody betrayed the movement and said, well, no, what we really want, we just want to be able to ride their buses. We just built an entire system damn near 40 to 60 years earlier. Because that's what boycotts are supposed to be for. It's not your opportunity to teach them a lesson. It's your opportunity to learn your fucking lesson. And so anytime you do a boycott and you're planning to go back, you're not serious. Like if I was counseling you, I would say you're not serious. You come to me, you say, Pastor, he been hitting me in my face and everything. I'm leaving. But I'm going to come back if he... No, you're not serious. You don't value yourself. You don't know what the problem is yet. You're not committed to learning your lesson. How the fuck you expecting them to learn their lesson and you're not learning your lesson? The lesson you need to learn, I think Michael Jackson said it. All I got to say is that they don't give a damn about us. You need to learn that fucking lesson. Stop trying to eat at their table and learn how to build your own. Make them motherfuckers irrelevant. Make Capitol Hill irrelevant. And I don't care what decisions y'all make. That's for me and the people. God damn it, that felt good. You know? Man, free your mind and the rest will follow. So the 3 essentials of independence. Number 1, self-sufficiency. I got this. Nope, I don't need your bus. We got a system. Nope, I don't need your Walmart. We got a system. This is literally why I started building Window Shop. This is why I started building. Man, y'all don't understand what I've been building. I'm a world builder. I'm trying to build a new world because I don't like the one I was born into, and I don't want to leave this one to my children and my grandchildren. Not this one. Not this motherfucker. There's a fly in here again. Self-sufficiency. I got this. Number 2, self-determining. I am this. Black folk did good with self-sufficiency in Reconstruction. Many of the programs that this country benefits today came out of Reconstruction. Benefits from today came out of Reconstruction. But what we were not given was self-determination. What we were not allowed to express was self-determination. And just to be honest, that's typically how that shit goes. Palestine is going through something similar right now. But self-determination. I am this. Sorry. You don't choose my laws. I choose my laws. That's what self-determination is. Like imagine the United States declaring their independence and yet still having to follow British laws. So let me ask you this. Why do you feel it's acceptable that black folk were free, but yet we still had to follow your laws? And not your laws. I know it wasn't you. I'm not talking about you. I get it. But self-determining. I am this. And then self-governing. I run this. You know what I'm saying? Now, the thing that you'll realize about all of those essentials for independence is that nobody can give you those things. You have to be those things. You have to, whether we want to be an organized whatever, we have to be self-sufficient. And just to be honest, that's going to hurt in the beginning. It's going to hurt in the beginning. And if you're not ready for that, you're just not ready. Don't mean you're not ready for freedom. It just means you're not ready to do shit about freedom. It's a distinction, but it's true. I'm not going to soften that up for you. If you're one of those people who admit that I don't feel like I'm free in this country, and at the same time you're saying, but I don't want to do anything about it, you're a Nazi. Because again, if you're not going to do anything about your own freedom, then when they come for my freedom, you're going to stand there and let it happen. And I'm saying that from experience. You heard my story. Other kids are getting arrested. I'm there trying to do something. No one has ever done that for me. I've always had to be the bigger man, the better person. I'm trying to get some other people to do the damn same thing, because we have to break this spell of waiting for somebody else to be the great exceptional human. and realize that's all of our fucking responsibility. Stop giving that shit away. Commit to the hard work of figuring it out, and let's create a world where we are all at this table together. There's no need to elevate anybody else over anybody else anymore. We can let this shit go. There's no need to legislate anybody's personal morality anymore. We need to let this shit go. There's no need to believe that somebody is more qualified at making the decisions for your life than you are. We need to let that shit go. This is why I do the hard work every week on Sundays, even when it does feel unappreciated. Damn it. I do it because I want people to get strong enough about themselves where they get it. Yeah, I may not be the best. I may not be the strongest. I may not be the brightest, but I'm going to help. If I am here, I'm going to help. I might not be able to help like you help, but I'm going to help. I'm not going to be one of those people in history where something is happening and I'm not a part of the solution. That's why I do the work, because I want to set some people on fire. Man, and y'all know my dreams are ambitious as a motherfucker. Man. All right. I think that brings me to my conclusion. I wanted to share a lot. I love being able to hang out with y'all. I always enjoy our conversations. And I know, I'm different. I'm going to be different, and I expect other people to be different. Respect it or don't, that's on you, not me. But I hope I did share something that was helpful for you. I hope I shared something that will help you navigate life and maybe make some decisions about just getting more productive. I think so many times when people think of revolution, they think of black berets and guns. And it's like, nah, bruh. It's becoming a part of this is why I do Bridge City, right? It's becoming a part of a group of people where y'all put your money together, where y'all put your skills together, and where y'all put your ideas together to make a difference where you are. That's where revolution starts at. And then you grow that. You got to grow it on purpose. I've talked to so many people, and I asked them, I say, hey, what you doing? What they're doing with their stuff. And it's just like, I don't really got too many expectations for it. Oh, so you're losing on purpose. So you're doing all this crying about like, the world is so bad. But when I ask you what you're doing about this, it's, I ain't really doing nothing. You're losing on purpose. So you're not actually, there's so many people who have made it clear that they absolutely do not want to be a part of the change while yelling that things need to change. Please stop giving those people attention. They need to fade away. Like kind of like Marty and Back to the Future. They need to fade from that damn picture. Because then those people end up leading the perspective while they ain't doing shit, which is so dishonest. My wife and I used to run a feeding program. Hell, we ran a school. No fucking help. Did it. This is why I'm so strong on this stuff now, because I know a lot of people who say a lot of shit that's just bullshit. And I'm like, no, if you wanted to help, you would. If you wanted to help, you could. I'm going to say something real strong right here. You're too fucking lazy to try to figure the shit out. If the idea don't just magically pop in your head, you ain't going to do shit. That's superstitious as fuck. Or it's just lazy. It's just an admission that you really don't want to look for nothing to do. Like if trying to figure it out, if you've decided that's just too much to have to that's too much to have to do, then you've already decided that you don't want to do much. And I mean, that would be fine if we were just talking about the Super Bowl, but we're talking about people's lives. And you're saying you mad about it, and you're upset about it, and you're losing sleep about it. But the only thing you want to do is call people names who you don't even fucking know, who won't even hear you say it, and you probably won't even say the shit to their faces. That makes you a coward. Man. Oh, yes. Secular homeschooling is a need right now. Like, I mean, if you're part of this nation and you have children and you see what's going on with education and you continue to send your kids to that institution, or you don't even try to look for something else, you're losing on purpose. How do I know that? Because I'm a part of a community that did that bullshit. Don't do it. Don't do it. I had more indoctrination opportunities at school than I had at church. You know, the choral music program. Oh man. So that's it's rough, man. We need better stuff. But in order to get it, we're gonna have to build it. And listen, I'm killing myself to do it right now. I really am, y'all. There's not a day that I wake up where I am not tired. And I'm not saying that to complain. It's what I signed up for. I made it very clear from the moment I've started sharing content that I am not here for the same reasons that other people are. I am here to make this world a better place in whatever ways that I can, in whatever part that I can play in. And so I'm going to use my little 15 minutes of fame to say as much as I can and do as much as I can. So I'm working my ass off, and the distance doesn't make it easy. It doesn't, because there's a lot of people who want to help. There are a lot of people who are probably able to help, but we're all so far away, and I work like a madman. And so even to actually work directly with me, you got to work like a madman. Like if you have to ask me, how can I help? You can't work with me. You can work with somebody else who works with me, but you can't work with me if you got to ask me, how can I help? I work on a level so far from that. And again, that may be my church baggage, because that's what I had to do as a young minister. I'd have to come in, look around, and figure out how I can help. And so then when I come to the other person who's pulling their hair out, I can say, hey, this is how I can help. I noticed that this part is not as organized as it could be. And I noticed that we're overlooking this person who has an exceptional blah, blah, blah. No. Look around, see what you can do it. You don't get freedom by waiting for somebody to give it to you. You don't get a better world by waiting for somebody else to do it for you. Anything worth having will start with decolonizing your mind. And so, just to kind of close out today's conversation, this is just a reminder. Free your mind, man. And the rest will follow. I love y'all with my whole heart. Until next time, keep rising. I think I'll give y'all some more meditation, because I probably got your blood pressure up a little bit, and I'm sorry. All right, listen up. This moment, this right here, it's yours. So own it. Personal growth ain't some mystical fairy dust bullshit. It starts with awareness, knowing who the fuck you are and who the fuck you're about to become. You don't grow by sitting around waiting for some divine intervention or a damn sign. Growth comes from action, from intention, from making choices right now in this moment that push you forward. So I need you to do one thing. Drop the distractions, drop the excuses, and focus the hell up on your own damn journey. All right, let's get settled. Relax your damn shoulders. Yeah, you holding way too much tension. Loosen that shit up. Hands easy. No clenching like you're about to throw hands. Just close your eyes and just fucking breathe. Deep breath in through your nose. Hold it. Now exhale that shit slow through your mouth. Let it go. Again. Inhale deep as hell. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold that motherfucker. Now let it out. Slow as hell. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now picture this. You're a goddamn tree. Yeah, a tree. Stick with me, motherfucker. Your roots, they run deep. Strong as hell. That's your foundation. All the lessons, all the hard knocks, all the shit you've survived. That's what's holding you steady. Your trunk, that's you. Right here, right now. Solid. Built to withstand all kinds of storms. And those branches, they're reaching up, stretching toward the sun, chasing the light. That's your future, your dreams, all that limitless potential just waiting on your ass to grab it. You're not just standing still, motherfucker. You're growing. You're evolving, rooted in your past, stretching toward your future. Now take another deep breath in. And as you exhale, feel that shit. Feel yourself getting stronger, more grounded, more intentional, more alive, goddammit. When you're ready, bring your awareness back to this moment. Wiggle your fingers, roll those tight-ass shoulders, and when you're good and ready, open your damn eyes. All right, now say this with me like you fucking mean it. I am the architect of my own damn growth. Every step I take builds the foundation for the badass I'm becoming. Say that shit again, louder, stronger. I am the architect of my own damn growth. Every step I take builds the foundation for the badass I'm becoming. You've got greatness in you. And that ain't no feel-good participation trophy-ass statement. It's real. You hold the fucking power to shape your future. Say that shit to yourself. You gotta trust yourself. You gotta show up for yourself. No one else is gonna do it for you. Okay, now before we leave, it's story time. 2 little seeds lay side by side in some rich-ass soil. First seed, that motherfucker was all about it. It whispered, I'm ready. I'm about to put these roots down, stretch these leaves out, and touch the goddamn sky. Bring on the sun, bring on the rain, I'm here for it all. And so that seed did the damn thing. It grew, pushed past the dirt, reached towards the light, and became everything it was meant to be. Now the second seed, that poor dumb motherfucker hesitated. But what if there are rocks in the soil? What if I get too much sun? What if I'm not strong enough? So it sat there, waiting, scared, stuck. And while that first seed was out there thriving, that second seed never even got the fuck up. Listen, growth ain't for the weak. It takes risk. It takes courage. It takes you trusting your motherfucking self. So which one are you? The seed that grows or the seed that waits? All right, enough listening. It's time to do something. Right now, write down one personal goal for the fucking week. Something that moves your ass forward. Something that stretches your roots deeper or your branches higher. And don't just keep that shit to yourself. Share it. Say it out loud. Text it to a friend. Post it somewhere. Let your growth be witnessed. Here's mine. This week, I will dedicate myself to learning one new skill that pushes me toward my long-term goals. Say it with me, motherfucker. This moment is about you. This week, I will dedicate myself to learning one new skill that pushes me toward my long-term goals. Your growth is in your hands. Not your mama's hands, not your boss's hands, your goddamn hands. Every morning, remind yourself you're that tree, rooted in strength, reaching for possibility. Every midday, say it again. I am the architect of my own damn growth. Every night, check yourself. What the fuck did I do today to get closer to the person I want to be? Growth ain't some magical event. It's a commitment, a practice, a journey. And today, you just took another step. Now get the fuck up and go make some shit happen. Keep rising, motherfucker.
Keep rising. Whoa, whoa, whoa.